Hi everyone, I'm Rinsey and this is Rinsey Reads. Today I'm going to be doing my May wrap-up. So I did a handful of videos this month. First up, I did my Bout of Books TBR, which I'm sure you guys aren't really interested in watching anymore, but I also did a Bout of Books wrap-up. I'll talk a little bit more about the books towards the end of this video as I talk about the books that I read this month. But if you want slightly more in-depth reviews or more in-depth thoughts about the books I read during Bout of Books, definitely check out that wrap-up. Then I did a book haul this month. I have been traveling and it was like independent bookstore day and free comic book day and things like that. So I picked up a couple books over the course of the month. Then I did a Friday Reads video last week, which you guys seem to enjoy. I'll probably be doing more of those in the upcoming months. And then I put up a book review of one of the books that I read over the weekend, which was And the Mountains Trembled by Khaled Hosseini. I really enjoyed that book. Definitely check out that review if you guys are interested in more thoughts about the book, but I really enjoyed it. Now in terms of books that I read this month, the first book that I finished was The Grace Keepers by Kirsty Logan. This I actually got for review. This story is part like fantasy, part magical realism. It takes place in this sort of like future world where a significant portion of the earth is covered in water. There's this one character named Callanish, I believe is how you say her name, who is a grace keeper. Her job is to basically do like a last rites type ceremony for people who pass away before leaving or dropping their bodies into the ocean for their final resting place. And then the other storyline is this traveling sailors that are also a circus, and you're following this one character named North who works as a circus performer with this bear, and you're following both the storylines of the Grace Keeper as well as the circus, and then eventually they become intertwined. I really enjoyed this book. The writing is so beautiful. You really get pulled into this world. It very much is one of those books that feels like you're at sea, like you're just sort of like floating along in this world and sort of checking out the different places that the ship is checking out and exploring this new world. The next book that I read was My Father's Ghost is Climbing in the Rain by Patricio Pran. He is an Argentinian writer. He was on, what was it? Granta's Best Young Spanish Language Novelist list. You're following this young man who is a journalist living in Europe, and he finds out that his father's very sick, and he returns home when he finds out that his father's in the hospital. And once he returns home, he starts doing a little bit of, not investigating, but he's like cleaning up his father's office, and he discovers a bunch of things about his family and about his father that he never really knew. This was an interesting book. It's very, very different than anything that I'd ever read before, so it took me a little bit to get used to the style of it, but the first part, it's broken up into 3 parts, and the first part was really interesting. I feel like they set up some really cool things. The second part, however, really slowed down significantly. You see a lot of like the newspaper clippings and a lot of the articles that the main character in here is finding, like you're reading them yourself, which slows down the pace significantly, and you're not really sure what you're reading or what you're looking for or what you should be picking up on. And I think that's also partially being someone who is an American who doesn't have a lot of knowledge about Argentinian history. I sort of had to Google things when I was reading this book, which isn't obviously a bad thing. Like, I like this book because it taught me some new things or made me more aware of some things that I wasn't aware of before, but that does sort of mess with the pacing a little bit. But this book sort of like lightly touches on or has ties in with like Argentina's past with the dictatorship and just sort of the corrupt government system that they had going on, especially in the 1970s. But yeah, I ended up giving this book a 3 out of 5 stars. It really pulled me in the beginning, and I also really liked the ending of it, the last part of it, but that middle part was just a little bit shaky and lost me for a little bit, that I felt like it could have been a much stronger novel had that middle part been just slightly different. And then the next couple books, I'm just going to mention them really quickly. These are all ones that I read for Bout of Books. So if you're interested in my thoughts on any of these, definitely check out my Bout of Books wrap-up because I talk about them more in there. So the books I read were Smoke Gets in Your Eyes and Other Lessons from the Crematory by Caitlin Doughty. I really enjoyed this. This was probably my favorite read out of the entire readathon. I also read Lady Susan by Jane Austen, In Real Life by Cory Doctorow and Jen Wang, and Saga Volumes 3 and 4. The next book that I finished was Listen Slowly by Tana Lei. Hopefully I said that correctly. This is a middle grade novel. You are following a young girl named Mai who is a Vietnamese American girl living in California. She kind of just wants to spend her summer with her friends, but she ends up having to go back to Vietnam with her grandmother, who might be able to find out some things about her grandfather who passed away during the Vietnam War. But Mai doesn't really have any interest in going to Vietnam. She just views it as this like other world that doesn't have any of the things that she actually wants. But it's all about Mai sort of like finding out where her family comes from and the world that they come from, things like that. Like I said, this is a middle grade novel, so this book doesn't go quite as much in depth as I was hoping it would. I feel like there were a lot of hints to things throughout the book, and I just kind of wanted them to go deeper. But I ended up really enjoying this book just because it reminded me a lot of my family visits to India, and it reminded me a lot of me when I was younger going to India, when I didn't really enjoy it quite as much as I might now. Mai is a little bit of an annoying preteen, but I also kind of let that pass because a lot of preteens are like that, especially remembering what I was like when I was her age. Yeah, I kind of just let that slide because it felt very realistic. So if you're someone who likes middle grade novels, I definitely recommend this book because I feel like it's very interesting and provides some good insight into Vietnam and the life there. And the final book that I read this month was Written in the Stars by Aisha Saeed. This book was so great, like so much better than I thought it would be. This is a young adult book. You are following a young Pakistani American girl named Nala who is finishing up her senior year of high school. Her parents are rather conservative and they tell her that she can sort of like go to school and study whatever she wants, but she's not allowed to date with any boys or hang out with any boys. But then her parents find out that she actually does have a secret boyfriend, and they freak out and they decide to take the entire family to Pakistan for the summer. But then it eventually comes out that the reason why the parents wanted to go is to try to arrange her marriage. And so it's about Nalia struggling with that and trying to figure out a way to get out of this horrible situation. This was really, really good. I'm not going to talk too much about it because I am going to do a full review on this book that will come out next week, so I'm not going to talk too much about it, but I really enjoyed it. If you're someone who likes young adult books, if you're someone who likes contemporary books, I definitely recommend this. It's a lot more intense than you think it's going to be, or at least than I thought it was going to be, and I found it super heart-wrenching. I read the whole thing in a couple of hours because it's only like 200-ish pages. It reads really quick. Definitely recommend it if you like young adult books. So yeah, that is my month. If you've read any of the books that I read, feel free to leave a comment down below letting me know what you guys thought of it, or if you have any questions about any of the books that I mentioned, feel free to leave that down in the comment section as well. Or just let me know how your May went. Let me know what your favorite book that you read this month was. So yeah, that's all I have for now. Thanks for watching.